Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, I am going to only read the security check for children that I got from this blog post that I read earlier. Security check children, HCO WW Security Form 8. The following is a processing check for use on children. Be sure the child can understand the questions. Rephrase it so he or she can understand it. The first question is the most potent. Children's security check, ages 6 to 12. Ages 6 to 12. What has somebody told you not to tell? Have you ever decided you did not like some member of your family? Have you ever taken something belonging to somebody else and never given it back? Have you ever pretended to be sick or ill? Have you made yourself sick, ill, or hurt yourself to make somebody sorry? Have you ever wanted something very much but never told anybody about it? Have you ever gotten yourself dirty on purpose? Have you ever refused to eat just to worry someone? Have you ever remembered something about yourself and not told anybody because you thought they wouldn't believe you or be angry at you? Have you ever refused to obey an order from someone you should obey? Obey. Have you ever told another child something that wasn't true, just to frighten or upset him? Have you ever bullied a smaller child? Have you ever deliberately got another child or a grown-up into trouble? Have you ever pestered older children or grown people who were trying to work? Have you ever been mean or cruel to an animal, bird, or fish? Have you ever forgotten to give food or water to a pet entrusted to your care? Have you ever broken something belonging to someone else? Have you ever deliberately spoiled clothing of yours because you didn't like it? Do you have a secret? Have you ever noticed something wrong with your body that you were afraid to tell anybody about? Have you ever done anything you were very much ashamed of? Is there anything about your parents could not understand even if you told them? Have you ever failed to finish your schoolwork on time? Have you ever flunked an examination at school? Have you ever deliberately given a teacher trouble? Have you ever tried to make others dislike some teacher? Have you ever tried to make another child unpopular? Have you ever broken, damaged, or taken any school property? Have you ever lied to a teacher? Have you ever been late to school or late to a class? Have you ever stayed away from school when you could have gone? Have you ever cheated by copying someone else's work? Taking notes into an examination or looking up answers in a book when you weren't supposed to? Have you ever spoiled things for somebody? Who have you made guilty? Have you ever done something you shouldn't have when you were supposed to be in bed or asleep? Have you ever told others bad stories about someone? Have you ever tried to make others believe that your parents or teachers were cruel to you? Have you ever offered as an excuse for something you have done wrong that you are an only child? Only a child? Or that you haven't grown up yet? I'm going to read that one again. Have you ever offered as an excuse for something you have done wrong that you are only a child? or that you haven't grown up yet? Have you ever felt that your parents and home were too good for you? Have you ever felt that your parents and home weren't good enough for you? Is there anything you should tell your parents and never have? Have you ever done something to your body that you shouldn't have? Have you ever done anything to someone else's body that you shouldn't have? Have you ever told anyone that you did something when you hadn't really done it? Have you ever told anyone that you hadn't done something which you really had done? Have you ever ganged up on another child and made fun of him because he was different from the rest of you? Have you ever made fun of another because of the way he looked? Have you ever decided never to talk to someone again? Have you ever made your parents or teachers work harder than they should? Have you ever decided that you were too bright or too smart for the other kids? Have you ever annoyed an adult by something you did or said? Have you ever hurt a child? Have you ever made a child cry? Have you ever made a child sulk? Have you ever kept another child from having something that really belonged to him? Have you ever found anything and failed to return it to its owner? Have you ever told stories about someone behind their back? Have you ever lied to escape blame? Have you ever not told the whole truth about something so as to protect someone? Have you ever felt ashamed of your parents? Have you ever felt ashamed of your friends? Have you ever disappointed your parents? Have you ever run away when you should have stayed? Have you ever felt sure your parents wouldn't understand something that had happened in school, so you didn't tell them? Have you ever not told teachers something about your family because they wouldn't understand it? Have you ever failed to keep another child's secret? Have you ever felt it was just no use talking to someone? Have you ever hurt someone you didn't mean to? Have you ever been sloppy about your clothes or possessions? Have you ever cried when you shouldn't have? Have you ever been a coward? Have you ever made too much fuss over a little hurt? Have you ever tried to make your parents believe you were doing better in school than you were? Have you ever told on anyone? Have you ever teased younger children? Have you ever made a mess and not helped to clean it up? Have you ever broken or damaged something and never told anybody it was you who did it? Have you ever let someone else get punished for something you did? Have you ever cried till you got your own way? Have you ever decided someday when I'm grown up, I'll get even? If so, with whom? Have you ever picked on someone smaller than yourself? Have you ever upset anyone by throwing a temper tantrum? Have you ever hurt anyone by telling them you didn't love them anymore? Have you ever made out that you were more badly damaged than you were in order to make someone stop picking on you? Have you ever pretended to like someone that you didn't like in order to satisfy your parents? Have you ever done anything wrong according to your own religion? Have you ever not understood why someone was angry with you? Have you ever pretended not to understand what you had done wrong? Have you ever pretended not to understand what someone wanted you to do? Have you ever been in places where your parents didn't want you to go? Have you ever spied on anyone? Have you ever made friends with people your parents didn't approve of? Have you ever thought someone was crazy? Have you ever broken up a friendship? Have you ever let your team or school or club down? Have you ever tried to keep someone from making friends with another child? Have you ever pretended not to hear your parents or teacher? Have you ever made a fuss about doing something that your parents or teacher wanted you to do. Have you ever done something to someone that you'd hate to have done to you? And I'm just going to interject my thoughts. Can you guys see how dangerous this is? And why would any child need to be subjected to this? And all the authorities are fine with it? You can see how people can be blackmailed and how manipulative these questions are. The majority of them were to induce guilt or obligation or shame. Typical narcissistic tactics. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.